I want to thank you all for coming here, and everybody on Facebook. God bless you. I won't be able to see your comments, but I'll check them out afterwards. Hello, and again, thank you for joining us. My name's Paul Nehlen. I'm running for Congress in Wisconsin's 1st Congressional District, and I have filed a complaint with the Federal Election Commission naming Twitter as a respondent. Full text of the complaint can be read on my website. It's also been posted on Facebook, and I'm sure by now some people have posted it on Twitter. You know, sometimes you're in the right place and you're waiting for the right time to come along, and the right time is now for us to demand Twitter be held to account for what we contend are illegal business practices resulting in violations of corporate contribution and/or expenditure prohibitions established by the Federal Election Campaign Act, FECA law, and commission regulations, including violations of other laws related to staging organizations, responsibilities for candidates' debates, and has actively interfered with certain viewpoints, particularly those of conservatives or Republicans. Twitter's interference with elections must stop now. Second, we assert that Twitter banned me from the platform for the purpose of influencing the 2018 midterm elections by making in-kind contributions to my political opponents, Democratic candidates vying for Paul Ryan's seat to the U.S. Representative from Wisconsin's 1st Congressional District. Third, we contend that as an interactive news coverage website, Twitter operates as a debate platform for political candidates running for office, yet Twitter uses subjective criteria rather than objective criteria as required by law when it decides which political candidates will be allowed to debate each other on its debate platform. The law provides that if the commission, upon receiving a complaint, has reason to believe that a person has committed or is about to commit a violation of FECA, the commission shall make an investigation of such alleged violation. And a reason to believe finding followed by an investigation would be appropriate when a complaint credibly alleges that a significant violation may have occurred, but further investigation is required to determine whether a violation in fact occurred, and if so, its exact scope. So, we know Twitter has long been criticized by users for favoring liberal users' speech on its platform over conservative debate speech, a bias that appears to have been confirmed by former and current employees admitting on a hidden camera that Twitter utilizes techniques to shadow ban and otherwise limit the reach of conservative accounts. And just for clarification, shadow banning would be if all of us were on Twitter and I sent out a tweet and I could see that tweet, and maybe one or two of you could see that tweet, but not all of you would see that tweet, or maybe none of you would see that tweet. I would see it. It would look as if I sent this message out, but I was just getting no interaction. So it's really insidious, the method of shadow banning that Twitter uses. Facebook does the same thing. Conrado Murata, a former Twitter software engineer, admitted to an undercover journalist for Project Veritas that Twitter routinely bans specific users from the platform at the request of foreign governments. Now, we ought to stop there and think about what we see in the media these days. And I'm out in front of the Janesville Gazette, and they tell a lot of stories about Russian interference. Now, clearly, if we see Twitter taking direction from foreign governments to decide that they are going to stop possibly giving information to users, one user being shadow banned over another, one user being banned from the platform over another, at the request of foreign governments, well, that is certainly something that Congress ought to be having investigations on. They ought to be having hearings. But instead of just having hearings, actually getting something done, and we're going to get to that in a minute, I'm going to call on Congress to make some changes that I think will solve this problem for all of us. Twitter initially responded to the Project Veritas video by dishonestly denying that it ever shadow bans accounts. However, just this past week, Twitter has since backtracked on this position after Vice News confronted Twitter with screenshots that show the Republican Party Chair Ronna McDaniel, several conservative Republican congressmen, Donald Trump Jr.'s spokesman, do not appear in the auto-populated drop-down search box on Twitter. The unfolding of this story has drawn the attention of President Trump, who, like myself, is a stalwart defender of free speech. In my case, each and every time I was reprimanded by Twitter for using lawful debate speech on its platform, the reprimand was preceded by several emails from Twitter affirming that I had not, in fact, broken their terms of service. In other words, every time they penalized me, before they penalized me, they sent me emails telling me that when somebody made a complaint, I hadn't broken their terms of service. In fact, when I was banned permanently from the platform for lawful debate speech, I received 23 emails from Twitter affirming that I had not, in fact, violated Twitter's terms of service. In the case of Patrick Little running in California, Twitter indefinitely locked Patrick's account, contingent upon him deleting several campaign tweets. Twitter has also banned Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn's campaign video because she mentioned baby body parts. After the 2016 election, Twitter took its first significant step in limiting the political speech it disagrees with by creating the Twitter Trust and Safety Council. Twitter claims the purpose of the Trust and Safety Council is to work with safety advocates to prevent abuse. However, the organizations that make up the Trust and Safety Council are almost entirely left-leaning organizations who monitor speech online. For example, the Dangerous Speech Project, the Southern Poverty Law Center, and the Anti-Defamation League. I'm calling at this time on Congressman Mark Meadows, Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz, Devin Nunes, Dana Rohrabacher, and Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn to present and co-sponsor my concise shall not censor proposal, linked and reprinted in this news release, as the final solution to the censorship problem we face with mega corporate monopolies such as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, who enjoy Section 230 protections and the Communication Decency Act against users' speech on their platforms, all the while censoring debate speech of candidates and prospective future candidates in this great nation of ours. The bedrock of American society is freedom of speech. Social media companies have usurped this freedom, and we intend to give it back to the American people. Let's make freedom of speech great again. Thank you. I'll now take questions, and I'll repeat some of the questions that I was asked earlier today. I was asked, what do I think the outcome of this should be? And I said, I think the outcome of this should be really is this legislation that I've proposed, this very simple 2-page document that says that for the purposes of this legislation, censorship includes denial of platform access and normal use thereof. Nobody will be locked out. There will not be suspensions or bans for lawful speech. There will be no shadow banning, and I explained that earlier. The issuance of verified status based on any other related issue than identity authentication. Throttling accounts or content without disclosure. Embargoing content, for example, no memory holding content without the consent of the user, or the consent of the creator, I should say. Embargoing content, manipulating trending algorithms without disclosure. Demonetization, we've seen a huge problem with demonetization on YouTube, and it's got to stop. Lawful speech, and I want to be clear on this, is based on the standards enshrined in the U.S. Constitution, with the following limitations. No child pornography, no explicit, credible threats of physical violence, no publishing any individual's non-public residential address, telephone number, or email address without their consent. The platforms may choose to prohibit otherwise lawful pornographic video, for example, video containing explicit sexual acts, and restrictions on copyright content are already covered by the Digital Millennium Act. The major social media platforms mean social media platforms enjoy market share above a minimum threshold level. At present, it would include Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and quite possibly Reddit. Smaller platforms and message boards would not be affected. This legislation would impose company fines of $500,000 per instance of wrongful censorship and would be enforced by the FCC. Judicial remedies, both monetary and non-monetary, may be also available to aggrieved parties. And again, I will say the bedrock of American society is the freedom of speech. And we have got to take that back. We have got to make freedom of speech great again in this country. And so I'm sorry that I can't see your questions. For those of you who are on Facebook, another question that I was asked yesterday, earlier today at noon when I gave the same speech in this very same location was, wasn't I thrown off of Twitter for a Meghan Markle tweet, which was racist? And I said, well, first of all, that tweet had nothing really to do with Meghan Markle. It had her picture on it, and I meant nothing against her. I honestly could care less what her race is. I was merely pointing out that this Cheddar Man, this fake article, this fake hoax, I was lampooning that article because here in the United States, we have enjoyed a long history, 2 centuries of lampooning fake news or fake journalism. And that is exactly what I was doing with that tweet. And if you look at the tweet string that I created, which is one tweet after another telling an entire story, in the second tweet I said that this article was written, this Cheddar Man article, this hoax of science was written to dispossess whites of their native homelands, to tell the people of Albion, of Great Britain, of the British Isles, that they in fact were not the first people there, that it was brown people who were there, and that they should sit down and shut up while they were being displaced. And the reality is that was fake news. That was not a real science article. And 3 weeks after I was sent 23 emails telling me, in fact, that I had not broken Twitter's terms of service, and yet I was thrown off, there was a news article written, and there was a journal article written in the same science journal that wrote the fake Cheddar Man hoax story in the first place, and I was proven exactly correct. They said, we do not have the science. The science does not exist in this day and age for us to be able to tell what color those humanoids were with 10,000-year-old bones. So I was absolutely vindicated, but I was thrown off of the de facto public square, which the Southern District of New York has just recently ruled that Twitter is and social media platforms are. So I would like to remind everybody, go to my website. If you like what I'm doing, if you support what I'm doing, support my candidacy. If you can make any donations, we're getting close to the election. It's August 14th. I would love to get some TV commercials out for people who aren't on Facebook, and some newspaper ads for people who don't watch TV or who aren't on Facebook, but they do read the newspaper. There are still some few of those people left. So I'd like to make sure I reach them. If you can help out, great. If you can't, if you're in financial straits, God bless you. I appreciate your support nonetheless. Keep up the fight. Support President Trump, and God bless.